What's up, Node.js developers? Welcome back to another live stream. Today, we are going to continue the chat application build, the chat application tutorial that we started previous week. So let me show you quickly what we already have. Previous week, we worked on the UI. So we have like the home screen with all the channels that you're part in. You can go to a channel. Here, you can scroll through a list of messages. Some of these messages can have also pictures that you can send by selecting them from your gallery. Like if it's going to open like this, you can write something and send that message. What else do we have? We have a possibility to create the UI for starting a new channel. We have the menu and all the setup with Expo Router, and we also have the sign in and sign up actually implemented. We implemented that with Clerk, so I can create an account and I can go ahead and log in here. Notjust.dev, if only I can remember the password. Come on. No, I think that's not the password. Oh no, it is. So yeah, perfect. That's what we have. And the goal for today is going to implement the backend for this application. We're going to use Supabase for that. We're going to create and set up our tables for messages, for users, for groups, for channels, and so on. Then we're going to connect our Supabase with Clerk so we can secure our tables and data that the users are creating to their account. Then we're going to integrate everything in our application by fetching the data, by creating channels, by sending messages, by also implementing real-time functionalities to listen for new messages and displaying them in real time like a normal real-time chat application would do. Then we're also going to implement the cloud storage from Supabase to upload pictures and then display them in your channel messages. That's the big picture plan. And throughout this, you're going to learn a lot about the backend, about Supabase, about Postgres, about how to build these chat applications for yourself as well. So if you're ready, I think we are ready to get started. I just want to mention that this series of building a chat application is sponsored by Clerk. Thank you very much, Clerk, for making the authentication so much easier and so good. It's really impressive. Anyway, let's roll the intro and let's get into our build. Perfect. Hello everyone who is joining us live. If you just landed on this video, I would encourage you to check out the first part at the beginning. That's where we build the user interface. However, you can also go into the description of the video and you're going to find the link to the asset bundle. The asset bundle, which should be on our website, is going to give you access. Like if you leave your email here, you're going to receive a link to the guide. And that guide is going to contain all the steps that we're taking here with snippets. It's going to contain the source code if you're interested. And if I go to the backend, just before the backend, you can also check out the source code of the UI, like of a part 1. So you can also grab that source code and start from the same point as I have the application right now, where the whole UI is ready and we can now focus on implementing the backend. So let's go ahead and actually get started with the backend with Supabase. And for that, I'm going to start by creating a new project. So let's go ahead to Supabase. You can create an account. They have a free tier. I'm going to go here and let's go ahead and create a new project. I'll have a limit to 2 free projects. Which one should I delete? Project pause. Which one do I have? I can delete. Anyway, I'm going to create here in in another organization, but the steps are the same. We give it a project name. Let's do chat app. You can give it a password. I will use anything here. I'll copy because I will need that one later. I also encourage you to do that. And let's press create new project. For me, it costs $10 a month, but you have the free tier contains 2 free projects. I already have that consumed. If this is your first project, like it's going to be free for you. Anyway, here is our project setting up. It's going to take, I don't know, 20 to 30 seconds. And that will already give us a lot of things out of a box, such as a database, storage, and more. Let's go ahead and install and set up Supabase in our React Native application. For that, I'm going to open the terminal and I'm going to install at Supabase GS and the React Native Async storage. I'm going to do that. I also leave it in the documentation so you can just copy paste this command. And in the source, I'm going to create a new, let's create a new file, simply supabase.ts. And here is where we're going to create the Supabase client. Let's import create client from at Supabase GS. And then we do const Supabase equal create client. And here we need to send the Supabase URL, then the Supabase key and some options. So where do we take the Supabase URL? The const Supabase unknown key and having them, we can create the client like this. But we also need to send some options because the authentication on mobile needs a couple of things. Let me double check the Supabase React Native. Let me check this guide. Should I take this one? Yeah, maybe we can take this one because the Supabase React Native from the quick start. So it's the same create client, but on mobile, it's going to use the sync storage to store like tokens and so on. Now we just need to set the Supabase URL and unknown key. Where are we gonna do that? I recommend doing that through environment variables. So let's create 2 more public environment variables using Expo public prefix, and we're going to say Supabase URL, and then Expo public Supabase unknown key. Let's go ahead and check where can we find these values. In the Supabase dashboard, if I'm gonna go into the project settings, in the data API, we're going to find the project URL. This is the URL of a project, and we can set it here as the URL. Now we need the anonymous key. That is going to be found in the API keys. And here we have 2 keys. One is the secret, which you should never expose in client-side applications. And our React Native application is a client-side application. You're shipping this code to the client, to the user's device. So the server's key should never be used in the mobile application publicly. However, the anonymous key, this public key, is a safe key to be shared publicly, because it gives limited access to your data that later we're going to protect based on authorization rules, meaning that only specific users will have access to specific data that they own. So the anonymous key is a safe key that we can share in our client side. Anyway, having these two environment variables here, I'm going to go back into the Supabase client and I'm going to say that the URL is going to come from the process.env and I will copy paste the name of a key, Expo public Supabase URL. And I'm going to do the same for the anonymous key. I'm going to copy it from here. Perfect. Okay, so now we have a Supabase client. I think we can go ahead and test something. What could we test? Maybe we can go into the table editor and quickly create a new table, call it test, just to see if everything is working. I'm going to disable intentionally the row level security. I'm going to talk about that later. This is not recommended, like you need this, but we're going to do that a bit later. And for now, it's just ID and created that, and that's it. And I don't know, test. Let's do text. Hello, default value, and I'm going to do save. Now that we have this table, what we can do here is let's go ahead in our application. Let's go into the settings screen and test some things there. So in the application, drawer, home, tabs, settings, we have here buttons. Let's go ahead and add const test insert. That is going to be called when we press a button. We're going to test if we can insert new things. On press, test insert, title, test insert. So for that, we need the Supabase client. Let's go ahead and import Supabase from our @Supabase. This is the file that we just created here that initializes the client. Now with this, we can do, hey, Supabase dot from, this is how you specify table. The table name is test. We want to insert, that column name is test, sorry for that. A bit confusing, but this is the column name. And we say testing inserts. Now if I go to the settings and do test insert, nothing happens, but if I look here into the table, if everything was connecting successfully, we should have a row here. No, we don't have a row. And to test what's going on, we need to actually go ahead and say, hey, when we call Supabase from, let's go ahead and await the result. And the result is going to contain two things. It's going to contain data and it's going to contain error. And if I console log the error, I'm going to see why the insert command didn't work. I'm going to look into my terminal and I'm going to do test insert again. We see details, perhaps you meant public test with a capital T. Very bad name for the to have capital T for my table name, but this is just testing. Now if I update and do it again, everything is good. If I look here into the table and reload, we have a new row with ID 1, testing inserts. Perfect. So that's how easy it is to insert something. We can do the same like const test fetch. And in this case, we're going to get data and error, but this time we're going to say, hey, Supabase. From the table test, I want to select all the columns for our data. Let's go ahead and do simply console log JSON.stringify to look better the data. So we're console logging the data and I will add another button to see the test fetch. Test fetch. If I will do testing insert 2 and press it test insert again, so that in our table we have 2 rows. Yeah, I saw that we have 2. Now let's go ahead and test the fetching function, test fetch, and we have the data is an array of the rows from our database. Perfect. That means that our Supabase connection works and we can move on to the next steps. Hello, Francesco. How is it going for you? Hello, Dark Dragon. Hello, X Marshall. Roro Zamzam. Hello, Study One App. Hello, Canva Cartoon. How are you guys? Okay, let's look into our guide and see what's our next step. After we integrated this, the next step is for us to integrate Clerk with Supabase. Why do we need that? Well, imagine if this test table, we will need to protect the data, and that will require row-level security. Again, I'm going to talk more about that later, but basically with row-level security, we can say we can add rules who is allowed to do what in our database. For example, we can say only authenticated users can create a channel or can send messages. Then we can say only the owner of a message can delete that message. For that, we need to inject some tokens in our calls when the user is calling the database to insert things. And having that token, we can add these rules on the database, which are called row-level security rules. For that to work, we need to connect Clerk with Supabase, so Supabase knows who are these users that are sending these requests. They're users authenticated with Clerk. The good thing is that Supabase and Clerk works amazingly together. They have like an automated system for that. So what I'm going to do is we can go ahead and open this integration, and you can read more about integrating Supabase with Clerk and all the benefits of what that will help you do. The first thing is in Clerk dashboard, we need to navigate to the Supabase integration, activate the integration. This will give us a domain name. We take the domain name, we go to Supabase, and we just give, hey, Supabase, this is the provider is Clerk, and this is the domain name. Quite straightforward. Let's follow these steps. We go to the Clerk dashboard for our project. We go into the configure. We go in integrations, and here we can enable Supabase integration. Let's go ahead and enable Supabase integration. Let's click manage integrations, and we see select your organization. Okay, the application is chat. The development for now is development. The status is enabled, and all we need is this Clerk domain. Let's copy this one, and that's it on our Clerk. Now go back to Supabase. Having that domain name of our project in Clerk, we're gonna go here in Supabase authentication. We're going to go to sign-in providers, third-party providers, and we're going to click add provider. From here, we're going to choose Clerk. We're going to paste the Clerk domain and just do create connection. That's it. This is enabled here. Let's go back to the documentation and see. The next step is setting up RLS policies using Clerk session data. This we're going to check a bit later. But I'm going to go all the way like this step for installing Supabase client we did. Setting up environment variable for the keys we did. Fetch Supabase data in your code. This is the part where we're going to need to make some changes. When we call create client in our application to create the Supabase client, we need to say, hey Supabase, whenever you create this client, take the token using the session coming from Clerk and then use that whenever the user is doing the requests. That's going to be the last step to close the loop and letting Supabase know who is doing this request, and that is going to be a Clerk signed in user. For that to happen, as we can see, we need the use session and we need access to the current user. That's why our integration here cannot be like we cannot just declare it like this, like create a client here, because we need the user's token. The user's token is something that, long story short, we need to inject this in the React lifecycle, somewhere in a global provider, so that we can have access to the user's token. So let's do some changes to this one by creating a provider. Let's create a folder called providers, and the provider is going to be called Supabase provider.tsx. A provider, a context provider, is creating using the create context from React. So let's do import create context from React. Now we're going to create the Supabase context using create context. Now this context has a provider and a consumer. Let's go ahead and export here a component called Supabase provider that is going to render the Supabase context dot provider. That's like a normal thing, like how we can expose this. This provider needs some value, and the value is most probably going to be here the Supabase client, right? But I'm going to do that in a second. Now everything that is inside here will have access to this value. But what's inside here? Well, we're going to actually receive this as children property when we render the provider, children. We can type it with props with children from React and simply render these children inside our provider. Now, let's go ahead and import the Supabase provider in our app layout into the root layout, the layout file from the app. Let's do import Supabase provider from providers, Supabase provider, and simply render it inside the Clerk provider. That's important because in the Supabase provider, we need access to the Clerk session data, like the user token. So Supabase provider inside the Clerk provider, and everything else is inside the Supabase provider, meaning that everything else will have access to this Supabase provider. Now let's go back in the Supabase provider, and here is where we're going to initialize the Supabase client. The Supabase client, we're going to initialize also like with a create client, maybe like this. And we're going to do that in a use effect when we mount this component. Will we need any asynchronous calls? Maybe not. So we have create client. Let's do import create client from Supabase.js. We need the Supabase URL and Supabase anon key from here at the top. Maybe platform. We need the sync storage. The process log, I'm not sure why we need that. But this value, okay, create client. Now, another thing that we need to do here is the access token. So in the options, we're going to add an async access token, and this function is going to simply get the token from the session, and that session is going to be the const session equal use session from Clerk. Use session imported from Clerk. So this is the session, the user session that is signed in with Clerk, and we're calling get token. Does not exist on use session. I think it should exist. Use session return. Oh, it should be the structure here, the session, like this. So session get token or null. Okay. And I'm thinking, should this use effect be recalled when the session changes? When the session maybe I can even do const token equal to this. I'll do it outside. And whenever this token changes, I will call, and here we just simply say return token. No, but this is asynchronous. So I'm going to leave it here, and maybe just when the session changes. Then we recreate the client. Now we need this client to store it into a state variable. Supabase set Supabase equal use state. We're going to initialize it with null. We're going to say, hey, const new client equal to create client. Then this new client is going to be set as the Supabase. It doesn't like that because we need to type the Supabase, the state with Supabase client or null. Oh, come on. Or null. Or null. Then this Supabase, we simply export it here as the value of our provider, making the client that is configured accessible by our properties, by other components in our application. We can also define that the type of our context if we want to be correct, and we can say Supabase context type is equal to the Supabase, which should be Supabase client, or it can also be null, not const but type. What's this? Or null. Oh, should it be? No. It's type like this. Now we say that this create context is of type Supabase context type, and here we need to initialize it with null. The last thing that I usually do is create a hook and export it from here, that will help us to consume this provider. Saying that export use Supabase is going to be a hook or a function. Export const use Supabase function that will just consume use context Supabase context. That's it. Now, what I can do is let's go ahead and test this out. We have this context provider here. That means that now I can go into my settings screen and test out by not using the Supabase from there, which I should also delete in a second, but by using the Supabase from use Supabase. And having this Supabase, which can also be possibly null. I might also say that, hey, don't even return if it's not, if it's null. So maybe in the Supabase provider, I should say like, hey, it cannot be null. It cannot be null. Maybe I should just initialize it with like this. And here, like it cannot be null, I will also initialize it with this. Like a very, like something that does not have like access token and so on. We'll see if that is going to give us any problems, but that at least is going to help us not make sure that this Supabase is always defined. So from test insert, let's see, why do I have here use Supabase? Let's go to the settings. Let's do test insert. And if I go to the, my database, I'll see the new item here. But if I say that, hey, let's enable RLS, that's how we're going to test if this is working. And if I'm going to, by default, nobody is allowed to do anything when RLS is enabled. So if I try to insert, you're going to see that new row, we are not allowed, like it doesn't allow us. So let's go ahead and add a policy. Another specific policy saying that I only want to enable insert for authenticated users. Save policy. Now in the table editor, if I press again, I should be allowed to do that. I don't have any errors, and here we should have a fourth item. If I do reload, we have the fourth or the fifth item here, which is good, because if it wouldn't work, like that's how I usually test things. Like let me also test what's happening, like if I didn't set it up correctly. For example, here in my provider, if I didn't set up this access token from the session, will it still work? Or it shouldn't work, because now Supabase doesn't know the token, that doesn't know who we are. By setting this access token on our Supabase client, we should be able to add the next item. The next item, reload, it's here. Perfect. And this is just the beginning. Like this is a very simple like gatekeeping, like to only operations that for users that are authenticated. Later, for example, when we're dealing with messages, we want some operations to be done only by the owner of that message. And to do that, we're going to be able to add the rules by looking in that token that we just set and saying like, hey, If it's the same user as the owner of this message, we allow it. If not, we don't allow it. But anyway, this is how we're going to do things from now on. We're going to import the Supabase from use Supabase. I'm thinking we can also do it so we don't have to destructure, but maybe that's not a big problem. Use Supabase. Yeah, maybe we can say that, hey, here I'm going to expand this one. And I'm going to say const Supabase equal, and then simply return Supabase. If I do that, I'm not gonna need to destructure, so it's going to be a bit easier. And this use Supabase will not have any other data other than the Supabase client. So I think it makes sense to do this small change. Test fetch. Fetch returns an empty array, and you might think it's broken. No, it's not broken, because we don't have a rule yet to allow us to read things. So it only returns things that we are allowed to read, and in this case, we are not allowed to read anything. But I'm not gonna fix that, because we're going to do that in the next step when we actually implement like real data for our channels and messages and so on. Last thing that I want to do here before we move to the next step is to actually go ahead and remove all the implementation of our Supabase client that we have here, like the static client. From source Supabase, we no longer need it. So I'm going to move to trash because we moved it as a provider. It's a little bit like a more smarter Supabase client that also integrates with the session token. Perfect. Let's go ahead. I'm going to do a git add, git commit, or git status. Let me check something. Git status. Yeah, git add, git commit -m, integrate Supabase with Clerk. Okay, this shouldn't be on this branch, but anyway, that's good. All right, perfect. Any questions so far? How can you prevent Supabase from pausing your apps? Is by upgrading to the paid version, or by having usage. Like if the Supabase receives hits, like it's going to keep being used. Let's go next. The next step for us, if we look into the guide, is syncing Clerk users with Supabase. There is one more thing. In a lot of cases, authentication happens separately, but at the same time, we also want the data about those users in our application logic. For example, to be able to search users in our UI, or to be able to do relationships between users and tables. For that reason, in our Supabase table editor, we would like to create a new table called users. This table, what data will it contain? It will have RLS enabled, and it will have the following columns. In the guide, I have it here. The users have ID, created at, updated at. We have created at, updated, created at. We can add the updated at, which is a timestamp Z. Z stands for the timestamp with time zone. Then we have first name, last name, and full name, all texts. First name and last name. And you might think, why do we need the full name if we have two columns, first name and last name? The searching is going to be done easier like on one column. Like if we're searching by first name and last name, it's going to be easier to search like on this field. So let's add them as text, and text. What else? We have avatar URL. Let's do avatar URL. That's also going to be a text. Are there anything required? I think only the ID created at and updated at should be required. So let's go into the updated at and say that deselect the is nullable. Everything else probably can be null, and that's totally fine. The ID, we're going to change the type to a text. ID type text. Perfect. Let's go ahead and just click save. And we have a table users. Now, how do we connect like the Clerk users? Because we have already information about the users in Clerk. How do we connect or synchronize them with our Supabase? Well, we do that by using webhooks. What is a webhook? If I go to the Clerk configure and scroll down to webhooks, we're going to see that in Clerk, we can set up an endpoint that Clerk will call when things are happening. For example, when a user is created in Clerk, Clerk is going to call this endpoint. How does that help us? Well, on the Supabase, we can go into the edge functions, which are cloud functions that have a URL, and we can give it to Clerk to call it. So if I go here and say, hey, let's deploy a new function and let's write the code in the browser. And this function is going to be called, where do I have function name here? Let's say Clerk web hook. I'm going to save you some time, and we're going to copy paste the webhook that I have here, the webhook code. This webhook code is a little bit adjusted based on the documentation or the blog post, not this one, but this synchronized users data from Clerk. You can read more here of how this is happening. This is the data that we're going to receive. And there is the webhook. This webhook has way more things in it, but I simplify it a bit. And this is the code that we're interested in. I'm going to explain it in a second, but now let's just copy it, go to our edge functions, create new function, and here in the index, let's paste this code. So what is happening? Well, when this webhook is going to be called, we're going to first look at a secret to make sure that it's coming from Clerk and not someone trying to hack our system. It's going to verify this to make sure that it's actually Clerk doing this. And if everything is okay, it's going to look at the event. This event is coming from the verify webhook, which is destructuring it. And we're going to say if event is user.created, that means that a user has been created in Clerk. So what we're doing is we're inserting in our users table the following fields. This is important because if you have different fields, you can change them here. So make sure to double check these fields with the table that you just created. Then there is also an event when the user is updated. Maybe he changed the name, maybe he changed the avatar, and so on. So what we're doing is we are updating the user that has this ID and setting the new fields, first name, last name, and so on. Then that's the only events that we are dealing with. In the blog post, I will deploy this webhook. But in the blog post, you can also see that you should probably also handle the delete event when a user is deleted and some other events maybe as well. By deploying this function, we get an endpoint URL. If I take this endpoint URL, I can go back to Clerk and say, hey, Clerk, in the configure, in the webhooks, I can go ahead and add a new webhook. I say, hey, when things are happening in Clerk, go ahead and send this data to this endpoint. And we can actually subscribe to very specific events. I'm not handling anything with organizations. I'm only handling things with user created. I'm going to maybe select all the users events. If you're handling, for example, subscriptions or sessions or payments or organization or roles and so on, you would select like more here. After I selected these 3 events, I'll click create. And this is the signing secret. This is the way we're going to handle security. Let's go ahead and copy this secret and go back to the edge function. And remember, in the code, we are looking for an environment variable called Clerk webhook secret. Well, that's what we're going to do by going into the edge functions secrets. We're going to say the value is this one that we just copied from the secret here. And the key is Clerk webhook secret. Hopefully I didn't make a typo. I'm going to do save. We're going to see it here. And now I can go back to Clerk and say, like, let's go ahead and test if it's working. I think in the testing, we can say, hey, send me a user created event. This is the data that we're going to receive there. And I can press send example. Now, Clerk is going to send a test event to our edge function, to our Supabase webhook, and it said failed. Why did it fail? Missing authorization header. Missing authorization header. I don't know. Let's go and at the edge function, select this edge function and see it was called. Let's look at the logs. There are no logs. There should be logs. No? Invocation 401. Yeah, I think I know why. I think the function itself in the details. Let me see something. I think we need to disable a property in the function configuration. We need to disable verify JWT secret. We need to disable that. Save changes. And now from Clerk, if I'm going to do the same test again, where is it? Let's do testing, created, send test. It still failed in the invocations. Now it's a 500, means that there is an error with our code. That means that in the logs, we probably need to see, yeah, there is this error saying what? Oh yeah, could not find avatar URL column in the user schema. If I go into the table editor, users, edit table. Oh, I have a typo, of course. I will update this column. I will save it. And I will try again, send example. And it's finally successful. Meaning that Clerk successfully called our Supabase edge function called Clerk webhook. In the invocation, we say that it's a status code 200, green, meaning everything went good. And to finally double check everything, we need to see the outcome. And the outcome should be that in the users table, if I reload this, we should see a new row. A new row with the first name John, last name Doe, John Doe, and avatar URL. This is the test data that we sent from here. Cool, that's perfect. And you can also test probably the update. And in the update, it's updating what? Is it updating something meaningful, like name or something? It failed. Why did it fail? Cannot queries the results to a single JSON object. It's good that we tested, because if the create was working, the update was not working. So I can look the same here, 500 in the logs. What do we have in the details? The result contains 0 rows. Cannot, meaning that in the overview, invocation, or in the code, you see in the user created, we are getting the user back and we are probably returning it. Here we are returning it. In the user updated, we are updating this. And again, we are returning the user. But it doesn't like it. Does it expect not a single object, but multiple? I'm going to check the code from the blog post. User updated. Select single. Status. Cannot convert the results to a single JSON object. But what is the result? Oh, but there is an internal error. The logs says that it's an internal error. Error updating user. The result contains 0 rows. Maybe there is, like, the way they are updating it is not correct. I mean, it's not the same ID as the user that we created, because it's this ID, yeah. And there is no ID like this in our table. So I think this is something okay. I'll double check that by going ahead and trying it actually with our workflow. By that, I will go ahead and delete my user and go into the application, sign out, and sign up again. If I sign up, it should create the user in Clerk. Clerk should call Supabase, and Supabase should save the information, the real information about my user. So I can go ahead and say, in the sign up, enter email, my name at notjust.dev. If I do continue, I need to verify my account. Where is my phone? I will receive the verification code. Verify. And we're here. Now, here in the Clerk, I have a user. In the table editor, do I have another user? Yes, but it doesn't have first name because I never set it. But everything else is there, like avatar, name, and so on. And I think that if I manually go ahead and update something here, like Vadim Savin, and do save, it should probably call the update webhook, and here we should see the first name and last name, if it worked. Let's reload, and it's Vadim Savin. Perfect. So the update webhook indeed works. Finally, if we want to actually get this information from the user, like first name and last name, during the account creation, all we have to do is in the application of sign up, add more fields. For example, I will copy paste this password, and I'll say first name, set first name, and I will do last name and set last name. I'll go ahead and I'll duplicate the email address input 2 times. The first one is going to be first name, I don't know, Joe, set first name. The second one is going to be last name, set last name. Here, like, yeah, it's just a string, so it really doesn't matter like what we call it. Now we have, these fields. The only thing is that when we create sign up create, we're going to send here first name as first name, or we have a same, and last name that we take from user. Let's give it a try. And now if I'm gonna go and delete this user again and create it from scratch, saying Vadim Savin and continue. Let's see the verification code again. And if I call verify, it's here. And if I go here and check the users, I have a user and it has a name and last name. And in Supabase, if I delete the old one, this is the new one that was just created. And it has name, it has last name and full name. And this user ID, if I copy it, is the same user ID that I have in Clerk here. Should be this one. It's, it's the same. Perfect. So now we have full integration and synchronization of users from Clerk to Supabase. Git status, git add. First and last name during sign up. Okay, so we have users. Having the users, the next step is going to be to fetch these users. Maybe while I take a very short break, I can go ahead and sign up from my physical phone with another email. So later I can talk between each other, because now it's going to get interesting. We're going to be able to actually chat. So let's do another name. John. Let me create another account quickly. I'm going to verify my account. Yeah, maybe. And here we have another user. This is the John is from my physical device. Perfect. All right, let's go ahead and continue by fetching the users when in the new chat page. In the new chat, we need to fetch all the users and display them here. Let's go ahead and where is going that happening? I think it's in the maybe components, users list. Maybe it's here. Yeah, in the users list. At the moment, we're taking the users from the dummy data. But what we want to do is to take them from Supabase. So I'm going to do Supabase equal use Supabase. And in a use effect, we can say, hey, let's go ahead and fetch the users. Const fetch users equal async function. We call fetch users right away. And here we say, hey, give me the data and the error by calling Supabase dot from users table. From users table, select everything. And that's it. And then let's do console log data. If I look here, we are not going to see any users. Why? Because of row level security. When our tables are protected by row level security, by default, nobody is allowed to do nothing on our table. Let's go ahead and press add RLS. Let's create a policy and say, hey, I'll do select enable read access for authenticated users. The command is select, but the role should be authenticated. So only authenticated users can read other users from our database. Let's do save policy. Go back, reload, and check again. If I open, we see data about users. Cool. We take this data and we need to store it in a state. Const users set users equal use state. Initially it's empty array. The use state imported from React, and this data we're going to do set users use data. Now if I click on this item, we have 3 users here. Perfect. We no longer need the dummy users, and everything is happening here. If there is an error, I don't know, if there is, and the error should be here, if error, we probably will show some UI or use a simple alert error. and then the error actually message. This alert can be imported from React Native. And here I can do else. Okay, good. With TypeScript, we're gonna figure out in a second. So if, for example, here I will say like select and intentionally do an error, we're going to see this alert pop up saying that the column 1, 2, 3 does not exist. Cool. Maybe the whole flat list will have class name bg white and flex 1. No. It's okay. That's maybe in that drawer, home, new chat, bg white. Sorry. Okie dokie. So, cool. We have users coming from the database. We have users coming from the database. Maybe we should query all the users except our own user. For that, we need to know what is our ID. We're going to take that information from use session from Clerk. In the use session, I think we can get what? User. Can we get user? Or maybe use user from Clerk. And here I'm going to check the ID. And if I go ahead and say that, hey, when you select the users, select all of them except the one, like not equal to, where the ID is not equal to the ID of our user. Maybe it's not like this. Use user, use Clerk. It's going to return what? Maybe I can do what? User. And do here user.id. Possibly null. Let's do question mark. Now, if I go here, we see everyone except my own profile. Because if I delete not equal here and say equal, it's going to only show my profile. That's why we have not equal. Perfect. That's how filtering on Supabase works. The next step is how do we say that the type of this data? Because right now, if I hover over user, it says never, meaning that it doesn't really know like what type it is. We can define this type manually, but the cool thing is that with Supabase, we can generate these types automatically based on the schema. So if I search Supabase TypeScript, there is generating types from the dashboard or from the CLI. I prefer generating them from the CLI. For that, we need the Supabase client. I have it globally. We have to do login, and then we have to do init. Let's do that. npx Supabase init. I'm going to open the terminal, and I'm going to say clear npx Supabase init. Generate for Dino. I don't think we need it, but yeah, maybe. Okay, now we have Supabase here. The next step is I would connect the Supabase link. I will link the local project with my remote project. For that, we need the ID of our remote project, our Supabase settings, and this is the project ID. I will paste it here. And now what it's happening, it's linking, so that the next commands are going to be easier because I'm not going to have to always say this project ref. Now it finished. And what I can do is from the documentation, I can run gen types, but I don't need this project ID. So I'm going to copy this one. And I'm going to actually put it right away in package.json as a script. I'll call it supa types, and I will paste the command here. When I run supa types, it's going to run supabase gen types TypeScript. As I said, it doesn't no longer need the project ID, and it says schema, the public schema, drop it here, drop it in this file, but I will update it to drop it into the source, maybe source types, source/types/database types. Let's give it a try by running npm run supa types. No such file or directory. Yeah, maybe I can create it in the types manually, and then it will just drop the types there. Again, it's no such thing. Maybe dots, starting with dot. Oh, I have a typo again. It's types. Let's do it again. Now I think it's working. It's generating the types based on our database schema. What do you use to cache in client side? We're going to do that in a second. We're going to use TanStack Query. Why do you use Clerk when you have Supabase off? I haven't used Clerk, so what's it? Clerk is dedicated to authentication and user management. So it has way more features than Supabase off. That's why we've been using Clerk in this project. For example, if you're also working on web, we have like pre-built components. You can also manage like subscriptions and payments with Clerk, organizations. Yeah, it's way more robust system for authentication. Why is it still running? Oh, because okay. I think I need to do dash. Is it remote? Dash remote. I will copy this one here. Dash. I forgot. Is it remote? No, it's not remote. It's linked. Dash linked. Now if I do npm run, initializing login role, and that's it. Now if I'm going to look into the database types, we have that export type database with our test table, with our user table, with all the columns for inserts and so on. What we need to do, one thing that we need to do with that type is where we call create Supabase. If I'm going to go into the Supabase provider, let's go ahead and import the database from our types. If I will simply, when we call create client, if I will give here that database, and when we call use state and also say Supabase client of type database like this, then anywhere else we are calling, for example, fetch users, it's going to know exactly what the type is. So if I hover over the data, it says any. Why? I don't know. Supabase client. Use Supabase. This Supabase should be, maybe it's here, Supabase client as well. Database. So now, now it's good. Now, if I hover over some data, it knows what data it will receive. So here in the set user, it says that, hey, this set user, we need to specify that it's of type user. How do we do that? We are importing, I think, tables from the generated file, and we can say that the user type is going to be tables type user tables, and here we say the table name users. So now this is just one user that has avatar, created at, first name, ID, and so on. So I can take user and say that this state is of type user array. Now everyone is happy. And in the flat list, we have here the actual data users. Now, everywhere in our application, we should use these auto-generated types. For example, in the user list item, if I go there, we no longer need to take it from our custom generated types user. Or maybe we can go into the types index and say that a user is no longer what we define here, but a user is coming from the tables, from the tables users. Now it's dynamically from the database. So the user list in the flat list, now it works okay. I will go into the user list and TypeScript will let me know, like, hey, this user dot first name is possibly null. So go ahead and add a question mark here and here. The first name, and yeah, everything else is good. Yeah, perfect. Now it's working. And it is type safe, which is really cool. Let's go ahead and do git add, git commit, fetch users, and type safe Supabase client. Okay, so what's next? The next step is TanStack Query. Why do we need TanStack Query? Well, look at how much things, and let me see what things I'm actually talking about. Like, look at this code here. This is all the code required to fetch some data. It's still not everything, because if you want to show the error in the UI, you would have another state variable for the error. If you want to handle the loading indication, you would have another state variable for is loading or not. Because as you saw, like if we open this tab, it's going to take a bit of time. Like now it was quite fast, but usually it takes a bit of time. So we need to know like when it's loading to show loading indicators and so on. What I'm trying to say is that by handling the fetching and the caching and all of this logic manually, it becomes really cumbersome and very tiring, like as our application grows. A solution for that would be to use TanStack Query. And TanStack Query is going to handle a lot of that for us. Like it's going to handle the caching, and it's a very easy natural integration that is actually going to make our code easier to understand. Let's go ahead and open TanStack Query documentation. Let's go to the docs and let's go to the installation. Let's install it first. npm install at tanstack / React Query. First thing is in our root of our application, which is app root layout, we need to go ahead and import query client from TanStack Query and query client provider here. Now, step 1 is let's create the query client using new query client. That's it. Now, using the query client provider, which we're going to add it here where we have our providers, and I'm thinking, does it matter where? Maybe not. So I'm just going to do query client provider. And the value or the client is going to be the query client that we created at the top. That's it. Now all our application has access to the query client. The query client is going to handle the cache and everything else. Now let's go back to the user list where we are handling this fetching user logic. If I take out this fetch user to maybe, or I will leave it like this, and maybe I will comment out. Yeah, let's do that. I'm going to replace this one with a query from TanStack Query. Let's import use query. And let's say, hey, we're going to get back data. And we are going to use the use query. What does the use query need? It needs two things. It needs the query key, and this is how it's going to manage the cache. Based on this query key, it's going to know like, okay, this data goes here, and it's going to look at it uniquely. Let's define it as, what is this data about? It's users. And the second thing is the query function. At the high level, that's everything it is. Like, TanStack Query is basically saying like, hey, give me a key and give me a function, and I will cache the result of that function somewhere. I'll take care of that. And you take care of how you want to get the data. And everything else like retries, loading, errors, I'm going to take care of it. So in this query function, what we need to do is basically what we had in the fetch users. So I'm going to copy the body of fetch users, and I'm going to put it here. I no longer need set users because what I need is simply to return some data here. So if I return data, that data is going to be returned from the use query as data here. Because it has the same name, it's pure coincidence, but like here can be users, but TanStack Query still returns data. It actually returns data, it returns error, it returns is loading. So that's the cool thing. Like we say, hey, this is an asynchronous function, and then like it calls it, it manages how to retry it, and we get back like easy things to work with: data, error, and is loading. And what we can do with that is we can say, hey, if is loading, return an activity indicator from React Native. If it's error, return a text saying error.message. This text can be imported from React Native as well. Okay, and this data will go into the flat list. So now, if I go there, I saw the activity indicator, and now I see the data, the cached data. If I open it again, it's still the same data. Even if it's a different screen, but I'm using the same key, it's going to take it from cache, and it's going to show it the cache data without hitting the server like unnecessarily. So with this use query, we don't need use effects. We don't need weird patterns of defining asynchronous functions that we call it. We don't need to handle the state ourselves. We just call the function and we get information back. So I'm going to remove the old version that you see here. And this is the pattern that we're going to follow from now on. It actually gets even easier because let's test the error thing. Like I was generating an error by having here some weird columns. And if I do that, we're going to see the alert here. But if I do OK, I don't see the error message on our UI because the function, the query function, should throw the error if we want to receive it here. So instead of alert, or I mean we can alert it, but it's important to also throw the error. So if I throw the error, it's so long because it retries. It tries like up to 5 times. And this thrown error will go to the use query and it will be returned as the error that we can show on the screen. A simple pattern that I will show you is that, as you can see, like we have to always do that. If error, throw error. Because if we don't do that, it's not going to happen. Because Supabase by default is not throwing the error, it's returning it. However, and you see that there is nothing on the screen, it's breaking a little bit like the TanStack Query. But if you tell Supabase, hey, throw on error, meaning if there is an error, throw that error, don't return it safely. In that case, this thrown error will be caught by the use query and will be returned here properly, so we can handle it as we normally do. And we see it here in the error message. So make sure that you have this thrown error if you want the error handling of the TanStack to work properly. And probably I don't need these users. I will do data. I'd rather maybe replace here like data with users, but it's not the most important thing. And I will remove this one from here. Perfect. So that's our use query. Did I want you to do anything else here? Git status, git add, git commit. TanStack query, users query. Okie dokie. In a second, we're going to also learn about mutations that are mutating some data or creating some data. But before we get into that, give me just 1 second. I'm going to take a short break to refill my water and then we continue. And And I will also check the chat in a second. Okay. Okay. Okie dokie. Arnon is saying, I was a .NET developer and was having problems to get started in mobile. After watching and creating your Uber and Airbnb projects, I'm developing anything in React Native. I want to thank you very much. That's so nice, nice of you. I appreciate it. Use native wind in your apps. I'm actually using. Don't we have to use try catch with Supabase? We don't, because with try catch, like what we are doing here is we are actually trying Supabase like throw that error. Like we're not trying to catch it. We let the TanStack Query catch it so that it can handle it through its system. Because if the TanStack Query catches it, it has mechanism of retrying. It will retry up to 5 times, and this can also be configured. So it's much better not to handle it manually, but to let it throw it. So we actually tell Supabase, hey, throw this error, and the use query is going to catch it. That's the benefit here. Okay, let's move on to the next part. The next part, we're going to go into channel creation, because when we press the new chat here and press on one of these users, we want to create a new messaging channel with that user. So let's go ahead and get that done. The next step is the channels table. Hey Frank, thank you very much. Thank you for being here. Another great build. Appreciate it, man. How is your project doing? Did you implement everything that we discussed? Channels table. Okay, for the channels table, we're going to create first an enum For the channel type, we're gonna have direct channels and group channels. Let's go ahead in the, I think it's in the database. There is tables enumerated types. Let's go ahead and create one for the channel type and add some values. One of them is direct and another one is group. Direct messages, direct channel, and group channel. Direct is like for 101. Let's go ahead and do create type. We're going to need this type in the next step when we go into the table editor and we need to create a new table for our channels. What does a channel need? Well, it's going to need a type that we just created, and here we can find the enumerated type channel type. We can default it to direct, maybe, I don't know. And we can say that this is required, like it cannot be null. The channel will probably have a name as well, but let's look in here to see what did we set on the channel. It has a name, it has a type, it has an ID, and it has a last message ID. So it has a name. Let's add the name of type text, and the name probably is not required. The type is required. The ID has, as you can see, the type UUID. So that's important, like the ID has a type not int but UUID, universally unique identifiers. And it also has, but I'm going to do that later. It has the last message ID. We're going to handle that maybe later. For now, create that name, type, ID. That's it. Let's just click save. We no longer need this test table, so I'm going to delete it actually. The next step is, how do we add users to a channel? Well, when it's a direct one-to-one channel, we know that a channel, a direct channel between two users has two users. And in that case, we can set here like user 1 ID and user 2 ID. But that is not going to work for group channels, because if we design our system to handle group channels as well, in that case, the relationships between users and channels become many-to-many. A user can be part of many channels, and a channel can have many users. When there is many-to-many relationships in SQL databases, we need a joint table, a table that stays between the two entities that we need to connect. The table in the middle is going to be called channel membership, and it will define a membership of a user in a specific channel. The channel, or like channel users, maybe we can call it to keep it consistent, channel users. The users from a channel. We can update, instead of creating that, to a more specific join that. Because when we create a channel user, that means that he's joining a channel. And then there is going to be two IDs that will connect this item with a channel by having channel ID, and with a user, saying that the user with this ID joined the channel with this ID. This should link to an actually channel ID. So I'm going to go ahead and press on this link to create a foreign key. A foreign key with a table channels, where this channel ID is going to point to the ID column of our channel table. There are some also options that we have to set here when things are changing. So when the channel changes, this one should update as well. And when a channel is removed, the memberships should also be removed. So I'll do cascade for both. Let's go save, and let's do the same thing for the user ID. I will link it to the users, and I will connect it to the ID of a user. And the same thing, when a user ID changes, we need to change this link as well. And when a user is removed, probably we need to remove his membership as well. So I will do this here. Finally, that's a little trick. We can have it like this. It's going to work totally fine. But we are going to have to manually handle like making sure that a user can join a channel only once. Think about the channel. Like if you press join that channel multiple times, we don't want to duplicate your membership in that channel. So the combination of user ID and channel ID should be unique. Like you should only have the user ID and channel ID group once. Does it make sense? Maybe with some diagrams it's going to make more sense. So in order to do that, like we can either add some rules on this table to check uniqueness, or we should do that manually. But another trick that we can do that is to make this channel ID and user ID a combined primary key. To do that, we actually don't need an ID here. I will remove this one, and I will make the channel ID a primary key and the user ID also a primary key. When we have multiple columns as primary key, that is called if I'm not mistaken, a combined primary key. And the uniqueness of it is going to be the combination of his channel ID and user ID. A user can join multiple channels, but he cannot join the same channel multiple times. That's probably like a very good explanation of this. That's it. Let's go ahead and press save. And now we have users, we have channels, and we have the channel users, people who are inside a specific channel. Let's go ahead and for channels, add an RLS policy for users to be able to create channels. So in the insert, I want authenticated users to be able to create channels. Let's save policy. Let's also create a policy for select. Who should be allowed to read channels? I will go ahead and just say authenticated. And for now, I will not allow like deleting or updating. For now, this is good. Let me do the same for channel users. Create policy. Who should be allowed to add a channel user? It's authenticated, so insert authenticated. And the same for select, but make sure that you add authenticated. Save policy. Cool. So now authenticated users can create channels, can read channels, and can create channel users, and can read channel users. Good. Let's go ahead in our application and get started. What happens when we click on one of these users? We need to create a channel with that user. So let's go ahead. Let's go ahead in the source. In the, maybe that should happen where? Yeah, in the app drawer home new chat, I have here handle user press. In the new chat screen, I have handle user press and I know on which user we are pressing. So here what should happen is first create a channel add user to the channel. We also have to add myself to that channel. And fourth, redirect to the channel page. And here, create a channel should be create a channel if it doesn't exist yet. Because if it exists, we should go ahead and redirect to the channel page directly. So a lot of things to do. Let's take it step by step. The first one is creating a channel. For that, we are going to need Supabase. So we're going to need Supabase. We're going to need queries, const, not queries but mutations. 1 second. Use Supabase. We're going to also need information about the user, information about myself. So with use user from Clerk, we can take that user. Is it like this or is it like this? Maybe like this. Now we need from TanStack Query, not a query but a mutation, because creating or mutating data, meaning like create, update, delete, should happen from a mutation. A query just reads things. If you change things, you need a mutation. So let's call use mutation. By use mutation is going to have a mutation function. It's not going to have a key, but a function here, async. So what should happen? This is const create channel mutation. Well, we're going to define what happens here. Maybe we're going to just do console log create channel mutation. Now we take this create channel, and in the handle press, in the line 1, we say create channel dot mutate. Dot mutate is going to trigger the mutation function. So if I look into the logs and press on one of these items, we see user click John create channel mutation. The thing is that the information about the user that we pressed is here. So let's send here the user. This user, if we send to the mutate, is going to be passed all the way to the mutation function. So here we should say clicked user, or the other user that we want to talk with in a way. That is a user type. So what we need here to do is to create a new channel. In fact, when creating a channel, I don't even need the clicked user, but we'll see like if we need it later, because for now we just need to say, hey, await Supabase. Using from, we target a table, and the table, we don't see it here through the TypeScript because we updated the table, but we need to run again npm run supatypes to update the local types that we are generating. So it's going to look at that table in the new state and it's going to update this database. Now, if I check again from, I see 3 tables, users, channel, and channel users, as we have in our database. So we want to insert in the channels table a new object with the following fields. What's the fields? I don't know. Channel ID, channels, type, and name. In fact, like I can send here type and say direct, but that's going to be automatic. And in fact, I don't need to send anything here. The name is something that a group has, because a direct channel has a dynamic name, like it has the name of other users. Like if I'm talking with John, in my case, the channel is going to be called John, and in his case, the channel is going to be called Vadim. We're going to take that a bit later, but the thing is that we don't need a name for the direct channels. We take the data that we receive back, and as always, we say, hey, throw on error. The data will be returned. Return data. Let's see if the first step works. If I press John, something should happen. If I look into the database, we have a new direct channel. Cool. So step 1 kind of works. Step 2, what should happen? We need to add the user to the channel, the user that we clicked. That can be called here. That can be part of creating a channel, like we have multiple calls here. Or it can be a separate mutation altogether to add user to a channel. And I think create channel. I don't know what's best, to be honest. So let me do the 3 things, like create channel in this mutation 1. Let me do everything in one single mutation. Maybe it's going to be a little more clear. Yeah, we'll see. And later, if we need to separate it in a separate mutation, we're going to do it. So after we created a new channel, we need to add the user that we clicked, the clicked user, to this channel. Adding it to the channel means creating a new row in the channel users with a channel ID and the user ID, and that's it. So we're going to say await Supabase dot from channel users insert. We have here channel ID and user ID. The user ID is going to be the clicked user, the data that we receive here, .id. The channel ID is going to be the channel that we just created. Data dot, or just data. Or we can rename it to channel if you want to, for this to make a lot of sense. Channel dot ID. Channel is possibly null. If channel is null, if it's not, we're going to throw new error, channel is null. And it's going to be null, and I'm going to show you in a second how to fix it. Maybe return like this. Return. Oh, come on. Why it doesn't want? Channel. Why? Channel? Yeah, because Supabase is smart. Supabase is smart, and TypeScript, it says that this channel is null. Why? Because by default, when we insert things, it's not going to be returned. It's just going to say, yeah, everything is good. If we want it to be returned, we need to add another select here, and we select back the columns that we want. So now the channel has a type, and this channel is an array. Yeah, every time we select, it returns an array. But because we are inserting only one object, we are interested in the first item. Yeah, we can do channel at position 1, but we can also tell Supabase select only the first item using the .single. .single will take the first item from the returned array, as simple as that, and it's going to, like, when inserting one item, it makes sense to use .single instead of taking at position 0. Now here it is happy with this. If I don't have this one, well, yeah, it will complain because even if we're throwing on error, like it thinks that sometimes it might like still be null. So we are adding like one extra step. Channel ID, clicked user. So now if I press click, if I go here in the channel users, reload, we have for this channel ID, for this channel, which I can look at it here, that is just created. This user is a member of, and he joined on this date. Perfect. The same thing as we are adding the user that we clicked, we need to add ourselves because this is a messaging channel between that user and me. So adding myself is going to be a very similar call, but the user ID is going to be this user .id. Maybe you can rename it here me or myself or something like that. I'll keep it user. And user ID, possibly null. It shouldn't be null, so maybe I will just put the exclamation mark saying that I'm pretty sure it's not null, but maybe you can add some checks as well. Perfect. Now if I go ahead and reload, we're going to see in the channels, we have two channels now. If I go ahead and click on one of these, John, we are going to have a third channel. Yes. And the third channel is this ID. If I take this ID and say, who are the users in this channel? I would go here and I will filter based on that channel ID, apply, and I see only one user. Why? I don't know. Because maybe it wasn't that one. I can look at created ad. Which one is the latest? Yeah, it's the first one, this one. So if I want to look who are the users from this channel, I'll filter by its ID and I'll say, oh, it's these two users, the user ID with this and this ID, which should be different. So one is my ID and one is John's ID. And the same thing, like on the user, I will be able to look what channels are you part of. Perfect. So we have done step 1, we have done step 2, we have done step 3. The last step is to redirect to the channel page. Redirecting to the channel page can happen here, where it can also happen as part of a use mutation. In the use mutation, like here, we can have different callback functions. For example, on success, we're going to receive a data, or we're going to receive new channel. And what should happen here? We're going to do router.push this router imported from Expo Router. When we are pushing to slash what? Channel slash new channel dot ID. This one success will only be called if our mutation function successfully returns some data, and this data is going to be whatever we return here. If there is an error, then it's going to stop. And maybe we need to throw an error on these two functions as well. Yeah, let's do that. So now if I create a new channel, it's going to be channel not found. What? Why? Channel.id. Why is it? I'm wondering why is it? I'm wondering why is it as a tab? Because maybe I need to do first router.goback, router.back, and only then to go there. Chat. go here, John Pickle. Yes, I go back and here in the channel. Channel not found, it's okay. We're going to fix that in a second. But this part is everything is implemented. We created the channel, we added the user to the channel, added myself to the channel, and redirected to the channel page. The only thing that we didn't do yet is to check if a channel with that user already exists. So I'm going to maybe do here a to-do for later. Check if a direct channel with the clicked user already exists. Because if it already exists, we don't need to create one. We need to just redirect there. Because right now it's just creating new channels. I'm okay with that for now. I will fix it later. But the thing is that we are correctly creating channels. Create channels. The questions. Hello, I wanted to add chat between an event creator and event attendees. Can I implement the same logic in this video in such an app like Meetup, for example? Yeah, like you can take a lot of information from here and implement it in other use cases as well. With some changes, with some adjustments, like you can do that. I might at some point publish like a reusable template for chatting application, like a production ready one. I would work a lot more on improving this system and adding like a lot of documentation on how it can be integrated in any kind of use cases. With some of my idea, that would be like a paid product, but I'm not sure if I'm going to do it. So let me know if you would be interested in purchasing like a ready to integrate like copy paste system, chatting system in your applications. What about if I want custom the error message? If you want to customize the error message, you can, instead of throw an error, you can leave it like this, and then you can check the error that is returned here and say if error, then throw new error custom message. So you are not letting Supabase throw the error, but instead return it, and then you are catching it and then throwing like a new one with your custom message. That would be one way. And shall I make a foreign key between a chat and an event in channel table in my case? Yeah, a channel in your case is going to be linked to an event. So the channel is going to have, like the channel is going to have a column called event ID. And whenever you create an event, you automatically create a channel for that event as well. It's actually a one-to-one relationship. So a channel is going to have event ID, and the event is going to also have a channel ID. Or you don't even, like in some cases, your event can take the responsibility of a channel. If you don't have anything else, like, because yeah, your event can serve as the channel. You don't need the channel table. And you can just simply, yeah, like later when we add messages, we're going to link messages to the channel. In your case, you're going to link messages to the event. But it depends, like, because if you also want one-on-one messages, like you would need channels. So maybe it's a good idea to separate them. Okay, let's move on with the channels. The next step is to query the channels on our homepage. On the home, tabs, chats, index, what we need here is to query the channels instead of taking them from the dummy data. Let's go ahead and say, hey, that is going to be a use query. The use query from TanStack Query. It needs a query key, which is going to be channels, and it needs a query function, which is an async function like this. This one is going to get the data from Supabase, and for that we need to get access to Supabase equal use Supabase. Let's do Supabase dot from channels. I'll take another route and then I will show you something else. Dot select. We're going to select all the columns. Dot throw an error. And return data. From the query, we're going to take, I usually take the three things. Data is loading an error. First, if it's loading, I show some kind of either a skeleton if you implement one, or an activity indicator from React Native. And you need to return it here. Same thing with error. I'm not gonna do that, but you can do it. And the data, let's rename it to channels. And I don't no longer need it from the import here. Cool. So our channels is of type channel, but it doesn't have a name, it doesn't have an avatar, and so on. Because in the channel list item, this channel imported from types. Let's go into the types and say that we no longer do the types manually. We're going to take it from tables, channels. So channel list is there. The channel, at some point, like we might be able to, we will do the avatars and you're going to do channel avatar. But if there is no avatar, we probably need to show something. We're going to figure that later. But okay, what? There is no last message. What about the channel name? Where is the channel name? Here, channel name. Again, for group channels, having a dedicated channel name makes sense. But for direct one-on-one channels, we actually want to simply take the name of the other user, not of ourselves, but of our user. So what that is going to look like is first of all, in this channel, we also need information about the users of that channel. Let me do here console log channel and a JSON.stringify channel null2. So if you look into the logs, you're going to see that now we're simply taking information about the channel. However, if I go into the index where we query the channels and I say, hey, select all the columns from the channel, but also select the, that might confuse you, but let's also select the channel users, the relationship from the channel users and all its columns. Now, if I look, you see that the channel with this ID has these two users. But in fact, I don't need just the channel user with IDs. We need actual information about that ID, about that user. And what we can do is inside the channel users, we can query another related table called users and taking all the columns from the users as well. So now we have a channel that has channel users, and the channel users has users with information about that user. So this channel is between John Pickle and Vadim Savin. The previous one is as well, and so on. So as you can see, now we have information about the users as well. We're going to change this in a second a bit. So I'm thinking how to do it better. Let me do the following. I'll give these channel names. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just as an idea. So we have 4 channels with names. 1, 2, 3, 4. But the channel with number 4, I will copy its ID. I will go to the channel users and I will look who are the users in that channel. Apply filter. I see that in fact, there is no users in that channel. That also means that I am not part of that channel and I should not be able to see it in my screen. How can we do that? Well, we can do that we need to filter something here. A better way actually would be to not query the channels, but to query, is that going to be better? Maybe, but to query channel users. I'm not querying the channels, I'm querying like memberships. And I'm looking for memberships where it's my membership, where user ID is equal to my ID. User ID of the channel users is equal to my ID. And my ID is going to be user.id. And this user is going to come from use user from Clerk. But the data now is going to look a bit different, because the data now represents channel users. I'll remove this one because that's why I said we're changing a bit things. We are first filtering things. So channel users, if I console log data, and here I will remove this console log, you're going to see the data. So we have what? We have nothing. Not users, user.id. It's possibly no. Let's do it like this. So now we have only 4 channel memberships because I am part of only 4 channels, even though there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 channels there. I only return my memberships, and having memberships, I can go ahead and say, hey, as we are querying the memberships, give me also the channel that this membership is part of. So if I do that, where is it? Why it's not showing? Channels. Yeah, there it was an error. So now every membership object has the channels. And in fact, we only care about these channels. we queried the membership just for us to easier filter things, but then we are interested in the channels themselves. So what I'm going to do is this data, because this is channel memberships, I'll say const channels is equal to data.map, and for each membership I'll just take the membership.channels. And now if I console log the channels, you're going to see simply 4 objects of channels that I am a member of. 1, 2, 3, and null. I don't see the 4th one because 4th one, remember, didn't have any users and I was not part of it. But as you can see, like now this is channels. And I don't know why I don't see the name here. Do you know why? I don't. Channel name. Oh, because I am returning data, but I need to return channels. So 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Now is the time for me to expand a bit the data of this. Maybe not everything. I might need only the name and the avatar for that, for us to be able to use it in the UI. But for making it easier, I will use everything. Now, if I console log it and reload, we're going to see that, yeah, this channel with this ID has the following users. And indeed, I'll let everything there. So it has 2 users. Perfect. That's good. I will delete this one from here. And let's go back into the channel list item. Because in this channel list item, we will receive that information about the channel. Like this is going to be a channel that we receive. The types are not really satisfying our needs because it says that the channel is only a channel itself. In fact, it's a channel with users. So in the custom types, I can also export here a type called channel with users, which is going to be a channel, and I will extend it with users. And these users will be user array. I can take this user and put it more to up so that I have access to it. Now this channel with users is going to contain information about the channel and a property users, which is an array of users. Cool. I can go back to the channel list item and say that I expect here a channel with users because I need users to be able to display names if they are not provided. Here it is. Now, what I can do is I can say if, or maybe let's do let channel name equal to name, to channel.name. However, if the channel.type is direct, if it's a one-to-one messaging, in that case, the channel name is going to be the other user's name. So const other user is going to be channel.users. I'll take randomly at position 1 and I'll say the channel name is equal to our user dot full name. Then this channel name I can render on the UI. So we see that for all of them is John Pickle. But that's not very safe because that means that for him, the channel name is also going to be John Pickle. What I need to do is I need to look at the other user, the user that has a different ID than myself. For that, I will need const user equal use user from clerk and I will have to look through the users and find the user that has a different ID than myself. And it says that it might also not find it. So I will do our user.fullname or unknown. Imagine like if you have a channel, but that user deleted his account. In that case, there is not going to be any other user. So now it works correctly here. And for him, I think it's on my physical device. If I'm going to go and reload my application on the physical device, I see, where is it? I see my name from the simulator, Vadim Savin, and one of them is unknown. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Now we have dynamic channel names. For direct messaging, we are taking the other user's name and put it as the channel name. And we're going to do the same with the avatar as well. Give me just 1 second. Thank you. Here I have some new coffee. For the avatar as well, the channel, does it have an avatar URL? It doesn't have an avatar URL. Later, maybe we can add avatars. For now, we can say, hey, if channel.avatar, then show the image. Otherwise, show a view with something very similar to what we had in the user list item. This and the view can also be like class name, rounded full, and bg neutral 200. Maybe this our user should be our user. I'll find it here so I have access to it always. Our user channel users find, and then I can do it for the channel name, and I can do it for the avatar as well. Our user question mark, or if it's not there, come on, I don't know, a question mark. Let's do here align item center, justify center. Here it is. So it has J from the first name of the other user, and in my physical device I see V from the Vadim, from the initial of my name. Perfect. Okay, now it looks really nice. Maybe I can do the same for users in the user list item here. When we see it here, I don't know why it doesn't show. I think I know, but I'm not gonna fix it. Perfect. Okie dokie. That was our user list item with our channel list item with dynamic properties. Last message is not there yet, but we can go ahead. I will delete this console log. and I will do git status, git add, git commit, fetch channels on the home page. That's it for now. In future, what should also happen is these channels should be paginated. So I'm not sure if we will manage to do that today, but like if usually like you're gonna have a lot of channels, so you would want to paginate. I'll just show you that with TanStack Query, like you do TanStack Query. You can read more about pagination. Paginated queries here. There is a page, but you would probably also want to look into the infinite queries where you have load next page, has next page and load next page. Now what I want to do is to fetch the details of the channel. This one is not very hard, and this one is where it's in our home channel ID. So we have ID. At the moment we are looking through the dummy data, but what we want to do is to use a query. So const data error is loading equal use query. The query function, the query key is going to be channels, and it's going to have a second property called ID, which is dynamic coming from here. This one should be a string. Why do we need that? We need that to not override the channels from the home page, because on the home page the query key was channels. Here we are fetching a specific channel using that ID, and the ID is a dynamic parameter, and that will help us store in cache when we query different channels, channel A and channel B. It's going to be stored in different parts because we have this ID in the query key. It's not going to override each other. Now the query function is going to be an async, and here we need Supabase. Let's go ahead, take Supabase, use Supabase, and what we want to do is const data equal await Supabase from channels, select everything where the ID is equal to this ID. I want to throw an error, and I want to only return the first item that you found using single. Now I will return data here. I don't need to do any finds anymore. I can do if is loading, return activity indicator. If error, or there is no channel, and channel here is data, and I think I can rename it to channel. So if there is no channel, channel not found. Otherwise, the title is going to be channel.name, and the channel.name can be null, right? And here we need the same trick as we did on the home screen to take the channel name. Maybe now to do, I will update it for a second. But let's see what's happening here. The message list. Oh, and message input. Okay. Anyway, This is the channel. The name is 1. But in fact, like this is a direct channel, so we need to take the name of our user. We did that in the channel list item with channel name our user and so on. I'm thinking about a utility function to do that. Yeah, better extract it to a utility function. I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna copy paste it. I'm going to copy paste it here. Use user, import from Clerk, channel is possibly null. This one probably should go here. Channel doesn't have users because here we're only querying the channel information. But if I say users everything, then it's going to have users. So I'm finding the one that is not me, and the channel name is going to be our channel name, but if it's direct, it's going to be the other user's full name. So I can take channel name and set it as a title. So if I go here, channel name, what? String or null? Channel name, something like that. Can I do find users? Let me move this one up as well. Users, why doesn't like it? Maybe it was cached. Yeah, now it's correct. It's correct. Maybe I can try to create a channel with John Doe as well, and it's here at the top. If I reload, pull down to reload. There is a channel with John Doe here. There is a lot of to do here actually. Sort by recent first. Okay, but the thing is that we are querying the channel correctly. Here we have it, we set it as a title, and I think for now, like that, we have the channels working. The next step would be message and message input. So let me go ahead and do git add git commit -m channels. Cool. And the next step, yeah, is going to be messages. Where is our here channel RLS insert low, like these things, like maybe if we have time we're gonna do later. Invalidating loading. This one is done. This one is done. This one is done. This one later. Prevent creating duplicate direct channels. It's also not implemented yet. But I want to get into the messages because that's the fun part of a messaging application, to be able to send messages to each other. So that is going to mean that we create a new table called messages. Let's see what data do we need there. A message will have ID created at. The ID, I will transform it to UUID. I don't think like it's very safe or okay to have integers for the ID, especially auto-incremented integers. It's very easy to find, to brute force like some IDs. Then We need the content, which is basically what is the user writing, the message itself. It needs to know who is the user who is writing this, so user ID, and we're going to link it to the user's ID. When the user is updated, should we update this ID as well? Yes. And when the user is removed, we should probably remove his message as well. Save. And we add another column called channel ID. We need to know to which channel are we sending this message. We're going to link this one with channels ID, and same thing. If a channel ID is updated, we need to update this one as well. If a channel is deleted, we need to delete the message as well. Yeah, if a channel is deleted, we delete the message. Save. Anything else? Like probably later, we're going to add the image as well. But for now, I will leave it like this. Let's press save. And let's go ahead and add row level security policies right away, because by default, nobody is allowed to do anything. Let's create a policy. I'm going to say insert only authenticated users, save, and select only authenticated users. Save policy. Cool. We go to our project. First things first, let's run npm supatypes to regenerate the types to know about the newly added table messages. In the message input is where we're going to send the message. Like if I type something, when I press it, I need to store it in the database. Storing in the database will happen from mutation. So let's add use mutation, and the mutation function is going to be an async function that will save in Supabase. This is going to be new message mutation. When we press handle send, we're going to call new message.mutate. Calling new message.mutate is going to trigger this function inside. Now, what we need to do is say, hey, we need access to Supabase. Use Supabase. We need access to the user to know who is the user that is inserting this data, and I think it's destructured. And then we're going to also need the channel ID. For a second, I'm going to hard code it, or maybe send it here as a property channel, the whole channel. And when we say that I don't need it here, I will directly use it there. Anyway, let's do await Supabase dot from messages, insert a new message with the content message. For the user ID, user.id, and for the channel ID, channel.id. And I'll put one here. Let's go ahead and say select, because I want to return back the newly inserted message, because it's going to have like an ID and so on. And I want to say single, because I want only one item. I'm inserting one, I'm expecting back one. And I want to throw an error. Then return the data. Perfect. Let's see if that is going to work. If I send here hello, let's go back into the table and see, is there a new item here? No, there is not a new item. How do we handle errors in a mutation? You have it in the mutation itself, like you can do if new message dot error, you have that. But you can also do that with a function on error. You're going to get the error. And if there is an error, let's do alert.alert. Failed to send message. And let's do error.message here. I'm going to import it and let's try it again. Cannot read property ID of undefined. Cannot read property ID. Oh, it's channel. Yeah, because message input in our channel screen, we need to send it here. Channel equal channel. Now, if I send like this, that is okay. Very interesting. It should be added here. It's created at, it has the content, it has link to the user who is sending the message, and it has a link to the channel to which the message is sent. Cool. The next step is going to be the message list, in which we're going to also send here the channel. And in the message list, we're going to have to fetch the messages for this channel. That is going to be a query. Use query. Query function is messages, but not just messages, but messages for a specific channel. So that's why I need the channel that I will receive here. The channel ID is going to be part of my query key, not function. Query key. And my query function, on the other hand, is going to be a sync const data equal await Supabase. For that we need access to the Supabase, so let's do that. Const Supabase, use Supabase, and also user ID. We need to know my ID. Use user. You see, there is my ID here. We're going to update it a bit later. So user, we have Supabase, back to our query function. Let's do await Supabase dot from messages, select everything where the channel ID is equal to channel.id. Throw an error and then simply return data. Now, if is loading activity indicator, and if it's error, like you also show an error. But here it is. It still works with messages from the data, but I will rename here data to messages. Is own message is going to check if item.user.id, maybe if item.user_id is equal to user.id. The user from clerk ID. So now if I go to the first item here, we don't have any messages, but some of them here receive a message. The others do not have a message. Perfect. Let's fix the TypeScript by going to the types index and switching from manually defining the type message to taking it from our generated messages table type. Now in the message list, when we render this, like it's happy with this. Question mark or yeah, should be good. Perfect. If I send hello, it doesn't appear instantly, but if I reload the application and go back there, it's not there. Why? Is it in our channel? Hola. Why is that there? All of these are there. Oh, but content is empty. Content is empty. Why content is empty? Because in the input content message. Oh, maybe we don't have to do set message null here, but in the mutations on success. On success, reset fields. So now if I write something, okay, now it's here. If I reload, it's here. And I can also go here somewhere. Let me reload. From my phone, I'm writing a message. And here, I will reload to see it again. Yeah, it's here. How are you? Cool. We have something working. There is still a lot of work to do here to make it perfect, but we're going to take it step by step. Let me do a git add git commit -m basic messages. Now what I want to do is in the message list. Well, first of all, I want the newest messages at the bottom. To do that, I will do .sort when we query the messages, .order. The column is going to be created at, and ascending is going to be false. I want descending, like the latest to be displayed first. If I go here, now the latest is first. Perfect. How can we send here like, hey, how can we make it the list to update whenever we send the item? Well, that is called query invalidation. Look, we're querying the messages using this query key. Let's look into where in the message input. In the message input, we know that when we send this message, the message list will update. So what we can do is, on success, we can invalidate the message list query. By invalidating, we tell TanStack Query, hey, that data might be outdated. Go ahead and check it with a backend, like if it's up to date. Let's first, to do that, we need the query client, and we get it using the use query client hook. Now, in the new message mutation, in the on success, what we do is say query client dot invalidate queries, and the query that I want to invalidate is going to be, wait a second, let me double check how I do that. In the docs, query key, yeah. So it's an object, and I invalidate the query key. I need to target it with the same query key as where I the query that I'm intended to invalidate. And this query is the message list. So it should have this query key. Messages, channel ID. Do we have channel here? Yeah, we know the channel ID. So now if I say hello and send, as the message sends, is invalidating another query, and it's displayed here. How are you? It's automatically there. This looks perfect, but it's not like 100%. Like, this is minimum what you need to do, and it's quite easy. Another thing that you can do, and you can look into the future, is optimistic updates. Because at this moment, like, we are waiting for the message to actually be saved in Supabase before we invalidate and before we reset the fields. This can take a bit of time. Usually you want to kind of update the UI very fast, and for that, like, there is a trick called optimistic updates, and you can read that here in the documentation called optimistic updates. Optimistic updates. I'm not gonna do that because I think we have a bit more important things to cover today. We still have to do real time, and we still have to do storage with images. But for now, I think it's good. And also, like, obviously you need here, but not here, in the new message, in the message list, you need to do pagination. No longer needed that ID, no longer need use queries. Everything else looks perfect. Git add, git commit -m, fetch messages. Perfect. Let's see what do we have to do next. Create table, send message, fast message, load more. This is the one that we left for later. Next thing is real time, and then images. Which one should we cover first? Images or real time? Give me 1 second. I'm gonna take a very short break, and then I come back and we continue with either real time or images, but we're going to do both of them today. Hello, I am back. Hello, Moses from Uganda. How are you doing? All right, what is our next steps? We have two important things to do, real-time and images. I would say, what would I say? Logically, we should do real-time because we are talking now about messages, and then to do images. Let's do that. Real time. Perfect. So what we want to do is when I'm on this screen, and if from another phone I'm going to send a message, I want the message to appear here in the chat like instantly. Like if from my physical device I send a message here, I need this message to appear in the list instantly. At the moment it doesn't, because it will appear like only after we reload it, right? In order to make it appear instantly, we need to implement real time. We need to subscribe to this channel's messages, and whenever a new message appears or is sent, we need to display it. Supabase has good real-time support. There are a couple of things, three types of real-time. One of them is broadcast, basically creating a channel and broadcasting messages to that channel, and then from our clients subscribing to new messages in that channel. This is low latency messages between clients. It's perfect for real-time messaging, database changes, cursor tracking, game events, custom notification. That's exactly sounds like what we need here. There is also Postgres changes, which listen to database changes. I was implementing them with this in the past, but it feels that broadcast is a more perfect solution for what I'm trying to do. Low latency messages between clients, perfect for real-time messages. So let's go into the broadcast and see how we can do that. First things first, we need to initialize the client. We already have that. Receive. You can provide a callback for the broadcast channel to receive messages. This example will receive any broadcast message that are sent to test channel. Give me 1 second to see like exactly how we implemented this better. So we have channel ID. So let's copy this code. Oh, come on. Now let's go here in maybe the channel ID page. And what am I going to do? I'm going to take a step back, because before I implement and I talk about broadcast, what I will do is I will create a channel provider, a provider that is going to basically export all of the things about the channels and so on to the other components that we have here. And it's going to help us in the next step as well. But long story short, like what I need is in the providers, let's go ahead and say channel provider.tsx. Let's create the channel provider. Channel provider. Create channel, create context. Let's give it a type. Then let's export default function channel provider. This one actually should be channel context, I usually call it. And here we do, as we normally do with providers, children, props with children. Maybe not only children, but we'll see later. And let's return the channel context dot provider and inside children. Export. Let's also add the helper use channel. Here it needs a value. Use channel. Use context. Channel context. Okay, so this is the bare bone boilerplate of our provider that is going to contain information about a channel. In this case, we are not going to wrap it in the root layout, but we are going to wrap it around the actual in the channel ID, because channel provider going to contain information about a specific channel. And this specific channel is this channel ID screen. So let's wrap it here like channel provider. Channel provider. With channel provider, I would do like the fetching logic and all of this stuff inside the channel provider actually. So let's do that. Let's simply send to the channel provider the ID of a channel. And then in the channel provider, we're going to do this Supabase user and so on. Like these parts in the channel provider. Inside here, we're gonna do all of these things. Let's make sure to import things like Supabase, like Clerk, like use query. The ID is something that we're gonna receive besides the children. We're going to receive ID. We're going to define props equal to props with children, and I think here we define ID of type string. What's happening here? Activity indicator import. Error, channel not found. Yeah, I think we can do it here. Text import from React Native. And as a value, we can render the channel. We can return the channel. This channel, let's say channel of type channel. I don't know what's the default. Null. It shouldn't, like, I need to double check that, but anyway. Channel or null. Why do I need user? I don't think I need it here. Anyway, back here, we were doing this only for the stack screen header. I will quickly create a simple component here. Function stack header equal return. I will return this one. Because the channel name I will need here, but the channel itself, we're going to take it from the use channel hook. So take the channel. It might be null. If it's null, return return anything. Oh my god, channel users, use channel. I'll fix the types there in a second, but we also need the user ID. So that's where we need the user ID. Const user equal user use user. And here, instead of stack screen, we're going to do stack header. We separated it in our component because we need to use the hook, and the hook should be inside a component that is rendered inside the channel provider. We couldn't use it here. So that's the only thing. And now the cool thing is that we no longer need to send the channel like this to the message list and the message input, because I can go directly into the message input. I don't need it for here, but I can take it from const channel equal use channel. And the same thing for the message list. I don't need to, I avoid prop drilling by using use channel, a context provider. And in the use channel, actually, I will say that this should be channel with users, right? Channel with users. Now, if I reload and go there, will you still work? Yes, should be working. Perfect. So now it's working, but the cool thing is that the logic of the channel and so on is happening into a separate component. It's happening here in the channel provider, and everything else like message list and message input is just taking the channel from this provider. I will commit this, git add git commit -m channel provider, and I will move to the next step. And the reason most important that we did this is for us to have a single place where we subscribe to new messages and a single place where we create this real-time channel. Let's copy this one from here. And we are going to subscribe to new messages in a use effect. Let's do that. And I think it's going to be, it's not async, so I will do it like this. I'll rename from my channel to real time channel. Like, don't confuse like the way we called our groups or rooms with this channel. This is a real time channel. Real time channel on broadcast, event shout, message received, this one, which is just console log. Subscribed. So we create a channel, we subscribe to the broadcast events there, and the next step is to actually send a message to that broadcast channel. Sending a message happens like this. Come on. Sending a message before subscribing will use HTTP. sending a message after subscribing will use WebSockets. Okay, that's good. That's good. My channel.subscribe. My channel.subscribe. Do I do that? Let's do this. After this one, I will do real-time channel, but I do subscribe here. Let's see what's happening. So what we're doing here, like as soon as I subscribe, I send a message called shout. Let's open the logs and see what's going on there. If I go on this page, something should happen, but nothing is happening, right? Because why? Console log, setting up real-time channel. Setting up real-time channel. What if I also do the same from my physical phone? If I go from a physical phone to one of these channels, it's going to connect to the same broadcast channel, it's going to send that event. Let's see if that's going to happen. Yes, you see, setting up real-time channel, but I don't receive a message. I don't receive a message because broadcast event type shout message hi. Maybe I don't do subscribe here. It's 4 hours in the stream, so stay with me here for a second. Yeah, now it worked. Event shout payload message hi. I had to register the handler and so to subscribe in different parts. Good. We have something working. What's next? Broadcast from the database. I don't want that. That would be nice, but it's not what I want now. Self-send messages. Actually, yeah, like messages by default are not sending to yourself. Acknowledge, send messages using REST. Broadcast messages. I'm looking for the best practices, but I don't find them. So the best practices is, first of all, this channel, like we need to connect to a channel specific to this chat room. To do that, we simply will use the channel ID as the name of that channel. So let's do that by saying that the name of this real-time channel is going to follow channel. Then we're going to put the dynamic channel ID. Then we're going to say we're broadcasting here messages. So the best practice is here, like for the naming, which can be anything that you want. But the best practice is to go ahead and say the whole big picture, like room, a channel, then an identifier for that room, and then like the resources that you're sending through that channel. So having this here, when I go to this specific room, it's only going to subscribe to messages that are sent in this room, not in other rooms. Now, Now what I will do is I will also set this real-time channel in state and expose it so that I can use it in my components. Here at the top, let's define real-time channel, set real-time channel equal use state. I don't know what is going to be. But where do I set it up? I think I will set it up after I subscribe to it. I'm not gonna send anything here for a second. And I will say if status is not subscribed, null. Otherwise, set real-time channel with the real-time channel that I just created. Real-time channel. Let's say state real-time channel. Now I will export this real-time channel to the rest of my components channel. I think it can also be undefined. So finally, from the state, I will export it through the channel provider like this. Real-time channel can be, can it also be null? No, what it doesn't. Did you mean to write real-time channel? Oh yeah, I need to hear real time like this. And now it's all good. Perfect. Where do we need the real-time channel? In the message input. When we send a message, we need to save it in the database, but also broadcast it to the channel. So let's import here the real-time channel. And as we did here, real-time channel send, I will do the same in the new message. On success, I'm going to receive the new message and I will send it through the real-time channel. Only if real-time channel is set up and configured. I will send a broadcast event shout, maybe event message sent, and the payload is going to be new message. Payload new message. In the channel provider, when I subscribe to the event, I actually need to subscribe to the message sent event. Now let's see what's going to happen. Console log real-time payload. Let's see that in action. Look, I'm going to open this channel. It says setting up real-time channel, meaning that it's listening to updates from my device, which is going to take a bit of time because it turned off. But maybe, no, it's not going to work. Give me 1 second. I'll quickly put the phone to charge. It's going to open. Maybe to do it on Android. Not sure. Let's see. Let's see what's going to be faster, my phone turning on or Android emulator starting. Let's look through the code again. Real-time channel. On broadcast, event, message sent, message received. I don't need this one. And also I can do a return, a cleanup function. When you return from a use effect, it's going to be called when remove channel, real-time channel. And I think set real-time channel with null. Okay, my phone turned on. Give me just 1 second. I need Expo Go. Let's open the channel. Maybe here we need to check when we removed to say if real-time channel, then remove it. Okay, let's clear the logs. I will go here. We see setting up real-time channel. I'm going to go from my physical device and I'm going to send here a message. Hey there. Let's send. And I see real-time payload, event message sent, payload, channel ID with hey there, with everything else. Type broadcast. So that means that from my physical device, I sent a message and this message was received here through the real-time broadcast. What can we do with that? Payload, I think it's payload. It's actually, I want to destructure the payload. No? Because it's payload.payload. Right? Payload.payload, you see? But anyway, when I receive this payload, what I can do is I can manually override the query that is handling the list of messages here. If I look into the message list, we're running there a query with this key, channel ID. What I can do in the channel provider, when we receive a message, I will need the query client. Const query client, use query client. Using the query client, when we receive this message, I can say query client dot set query data to update the data of a query. The key of the data is the key of my message list here, messages, channel ID. It can be channel like this. And the data is we're going to provide a function that will have old data as a parameter. and we are going to return the newly received message at the top, payload.payload, and then all the old data, basically all old messages. I don't know, let's do any here. So now if I go here, if I go from my phone and say, are you working? And if I press send, it's instantly there, you see? That's, guys, how real-time works. Let me quickly do something. I will, maybe for you to see better. 1 second. I am creating a new account on Android. Let me check. Bro, which one? Maybe not Android. I'm going to do media player. 1 second. Look, here it is. Here is my physical device. If from physical device I write something, you should see this message instantly appearing on my emulator. So if I press send here, come on, send. I cannot touch it. Yeah, it's instantly there, you see? Now the other way around. If I write something here, my physical device is not updating. Maybe I didn't reload. I need to reload it. This one, if I do this one comes here. If I do here, it comes here instantly. You see? And that's powered by the real time. Like, it's super fast, super low latency. And if I, for example, will go to another channel, it should not send these messages because it's sending it to a different channel ID, a different channel name. Only when I come back here is it going to send the message. Perfect. So that is our real time. It's working. And I'm very happy it's working really well. Okay, let's go ahead and do maybe in the channel provider, I'm going to comment out like where we do console logs because it's working. This is a real time. Let's go ahead and do git add, git commit -m real time channels. And you can also test real-time channels through the dashboard really nicely by going to real-time. And here you can start listening to a very specific channel. You give it a name, for example, channel, and then you need an ID like 1, 2, 3, and then messages, and then you start listening to the channel. and you, for example, where are the messages? The messages are in the channel ID, maybe this one. Come on, I need the ID. So you can go to real time, the messages, listen to channel. Now we're going to see what events are being sent here. Let me try to write a message from my physical device. Hey, boom, the message sent is here. It has the event, it has the payload, it has the type. So that's a way for you to test it. Stop listening. That's it. Okay, cool. That was real time. Git add, git status. Perfecto. Last thing that I want to show you is the Supabase storage to upload images. Our application can send here images, right? We can select the image, but now it's not being sent. Ivan, yes, if you have a question, feel free. Is it about the build? Where are we? Okay, so Supabase images. First of all, we need to go to the storage and create a bucket here. For the bucket, let's say images or media or something like that. Let's make it public for now. I think it's going to be easier for us. And let's do create. Now, the next step is from our client side to upload the images here when we want to send an image. Let's go ahead and we are going to create in the source some utility functions, utils. In the utils, let's create a utility for the storage that will handle upload, utils, storage.ts. And one utility is going to be uploading images. I'm going to give you the function because it's something that I don't remember from the top of my head, and neither should you. So upload image will receive a Supabase client, will receive a local URI from the phone and the MIME type. This is more specific, like if, for example, we'll upload other file types as well. Then using the fetch URI, we are getting the array buffer. The file extension, we're going to take it from the URI itself if we can. And then we're going to say the path is the current date and a file extension. Instead of current date, you can also add UUID. The next step is to do supabase.storage. From should be the name of our bucket. In our case, it's images. So let's do images. We call .upload the path where we want to upload, the array buffer with data, and the content type. If there was an error, we are throwing it. Otherwise, we are returning the path to the new file that was uploaded. Okay, that's a helper function to upload an image. Let's go into our components, message input, and in the message input, in the handle send, what I will do is I will say, hey, if there is a image selected, because remember we have a pick image, and the result we are setting it in state. The state is here, image. So if there is an image, or maybe not here, maybe we can do it, or actually it should be here, it should not be part of a function. We are going to upload the image to the cloud. The upload image needs Supabase and then URI. Let's give a Supabase and then the image URI. That's it. Let's test if it works. If I press on an image and do that and then send, it should call upload image. If everything worked correctly, now in the images we should see a new file. We don't, because we probably, let's see the logs. Storage API, row level security. Yeah, exactly. We didn't specify who is allowed to upload images. For that, we go to the storage policies and we say, hey, the image bucket, let's create a new policy for this. Let's do get started quickly, and I'll say allow access to JPG images in a folder for anonymous. Let me do full customization. Allow upload to authenticated users and download. We need to select and to insert. The target roles authenticated. That's it. Let's do review, save policy. Now, if we are authenticated, we should be able to insert an image. Let's do that. That's it. If I look into the images and reload, come on. I believe it should be an image. Why it's not there? I see it here. Cancelled, false. Oh, I didn't send the image yet. Send. Image uploaded successfully. And if I look here, I have an image, and it's the image that I selected. Cool. So now we have uploaded the image to the storage. Now in the database, a message should have a URL, should link to that image. So let's go ahead and edit our table and say that, hey, there is another column of image of type text, which is optional. I will save. I will go into my project. Probably I would do npm run super types to update the types of the message. But what I need is in the new message, when we create the new message, I'll receive here the image, if it exists or not. And I will insert it in the table that we are creating. This image is going to be sent to the mutation function when we call .mutate, when we call here mutate. So we need to say const super image equal to null. But it can be either a string or a null. The super image, we're going to take it from uploading the image if it exists. This is going to become async, and this will become let. Now I take this super image, send it here. String or null. Wondering like what's gonna happen if it's null. We'll see. But now let's go ahead and say hello. Will it work? Yeah, it works. But if I select an image and say image message and send, we already see something is happening there. But in the database, we see that the last message that we added, where is it? It has the link or the name, the path of the image that we can find in the storage images here. So we're uploading it, we are storing it in the message data in our database, and the next step is to simply download and display it correctly. We display that message, that image in the components message. Is it message list item? Here we have if message display image. The message we are going to create another component and we're going to call it Supa image. Because it's an image, export default function Supa image. It will return an image. In fact, let's import. Type Supa image props. We're going to expect a path to the Supabase storage, but we are going to extend the image props by saying and image props. Now, if I take path here and then the rest will be the image props, I will destructure the image props here. And I need to say that this is Supa image props. So let's look at the Supabase storage. Serving assets. Because to get the public URL, we need to call this Supabase from bucket, which is our images, get public URL, and here we're going to put path. We need Supabase, so we're going to do const Supabase equal use Supabase, and it's not destructuring, it's like this. And the data public URL can go into the, here I need to destructure, can go into the source URI data.public URL. Now let's go ahead and render this Supa image in the message list item. Instead of rendering an image, we're going to render the Supa image. And instead of setting the source, this is no longer the source, this is going to be path message.image. And everything else like last name is going to be sent down there. If I come here, boom, and we have an image displayed. So we're sending the path here, and in the Supa image, we are getting the public URL and we're rendering it here. What I would do, I would put this one in a use query, because in a second I'm going to update it. So I'm going to put this one data into a use query. The query key is going to be super image, and the image is going to be path. And the query function is going to be async, and it's going to be this one. So let's return here data. And it still should work. Public URL of undefined. Oh, public URL. Let's do data.public URL, and here just data. Like, if I go here, now it works, but it goes through the caching mechanism that we have here. Because I want to show you, like, this is working because our bucket in Supabase is publicly accessible, meaning that anyone having the URL can access it. If you want to protect the bucket and allow only authenticated users to receive it, we are going to do edit bucket, and it's going to not be a public bucket. Let's go ahead and save. And in this case, I think it's not going to work if a bucket is not public. If I go here, I think it's from the cache, from the CDN, but usually it shouldn't work. In order for us to work with non-public buckets, what we're going to do is, instead of get public URL, we're going to say create signed URL. And the URL is only going to be available for 60 or 24, I think, like for this amount of seconds. And then it's not public URL, but it's the signed URL. Data does not exist. Data. Oh, it's await. That's the thing. So it's signed URL. So what we're doing here is we are signing a URL that is going to work, but it's working because our Supabase, the user is authenticated. So if you're not authenticated, you're not going to be able to create this URL. So now if I go here, it's loading, and it's going to still be loaded, but this is protected. The bucket is public, is private. And the same thing, like uploading a new one should still work. Choose, send, even if it's a private one. Yeah, perfect. And from my other device, it still works. I have it here. Perfect. So that in our case is the storage. Git add, git commit Supabase storage. And that is everything that I like, the most important things that I wanted to show you in this tutorial. If we do a quick recap, let me add the QuickTime player here. What do we see? We see, first of all, that we have proper authentication system to create users, to sign up, and to manage them using Clerk. After we sign up, we can go ahead and create channels with different users. These users are coming from the database. Going into a channel, we can go ahead and write messages. Hello. these messages will instantly appear in our user's device because we implemented real-time listening. As you can see, as I type on one simulator, it appears on the other one instantly. And that also works if I send a message, right? Let's double check that. If I send an image, I mean. So if I send a message, image, it's here instantly. Perfect. So that is our project. Oh my God, that was a lot of fun to build. I left some to-dos. Maybe you can try to do it yourself. I might continue working on this like in private, and the code, we'll see like where it's going to be. But everything that we've done here are going to be, the code is going to be accessible on the GitHub that you have access to. Super tired. I have also a bit of fever, so that's why I'm a bit foggy now after 4 hours of streaming. Are you going to add push notifications to this chatting app project? We do not manage to do that today, and I do not plan the third episode yet. Maybe in future, if we do, I'm going to let you know. And depending on how these tutorials are going to work. If you're going to enjoy it, we might continue them. Anyway, I hope you learned something new. I hope you managed to implement this in your projects, like if that was your goal, or you learned like everything about React Native, Expo, messaging, Supabase, Clerk, all of this cool tech, TanStack Query, native win, and so much more that we used in this project. If you did, make sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video. That helps us a lot. And what else? If you're interested in mastering React Native, we have a course for that. So if you go to notjust.dev and master React Native, this is our premium end-to-end course that will teach you everything about React Native and Expo by building 7 different applications. You're actually going to build even a game with reanimated and gesture handler and a fitness app. So check it out on our website. Okay, guys, thank you very much for joining. I'll see you next time, and thank you, Clerk, for sponsoring